concept.
Hey, John, would you like to come
Oh,
forward?
yeah.
please?
Sorry, do you understand?
Nice to see you tonight. Okay. Okay. Would be kind enough to give us your concept of what happened, or give us your idea of what happened during Hurricane Irene and how you think your plan would facilitate the work of the DPW in future storms. Hopefully we don't have any for a while, but. Okay, John?
Yeah, thanks for having me. First, in preparation for Hurricane Irene, you know that we relocated our office up to the second floor here over to public safety, and that turned out to be a disaster. All our phone jacks, we got the phones transferred. It disrupted the tax department downstairs, so all of my phone calls was going through the tax department, almost shutting down that department as far as phone calls down there. The computer couldn't be used because the computer jacks in that room are all set up with, the police department has as well security checks in there. And we don't know what's going on with the electric and the generator, so we won't hash that out any more than it has been. But 3 times before that also, we had to relocate our office up to here. And that's just the office in general. As you know, every time it floods at the borough garage, it takes hundreds of man-hours to evacuate the yard and evacuate all the equipment, costing thousands of dollars. And this is done, this was done about 6 times just this year alone, just for precautionary measures. And luckily, we've only been flooded out just once this year, 3 times prior though. I did propose using the old DPW garage area on Grove Street to so I could put 5 containers there to store seasonal equipment such as lawnmowers, snow blowers, things of that nature, and 1 office trailer for emergency use only. So that will have all my phones, all my computer equipment needed. We'll have radios set up to use in the case of emergency. Again, I propose this to save thousands of dollars in salaries for relocation, and it keeps me in operational, during operational time, during an emergency, where I could have all my communications and all necessary means such as phones and internet, email, to help facilitate me get to the storm.
Okay, Alan? would you like to
John,
say
could you
something?
describe the items, I know, color, height, similar to like shipping trailers, cargo trailers?
The cargo containers.
How many
they're-
doors do they have?
They're 8 by 20, and there's two doors in the front. And I painted them all flat black. I have them down in the garage now. They're painted flat black to help blend in because they are pretty ugly colors when they come from the cargo containers.
And the trailer that would house the office equipment, that'd be similar to like a construction trailer?
Yeah, that's
There's a door in it, does it have windows?
Yeah, that's what I had in mind. It would have 1 door. There would be no sewer hookup, and depending on the area that it's put in, it could probably the largest that could be put there is maybe an 8 by 32.
Okay. Does any council person have a question? Johnny?
How much is this gonna cost? Don?
Well, the containers we already own. On the construction trailer, I had some prices between $5,500 to $8,500.
A year?
No, to purchase it.
Oh, to purchase? Okay,
John, could you, if I may,
right.
could you describe the activity at this location during a storm event? Would there be a lot of heavy equipment rolling back and forth, in and out? Is it primarily just supervisory and office staff that would be there? Once the equipment is in the boxes, lawnmowers, are you taking it out, or is it, once it's in there, you're done, and it just sits there? What kind of activity would go on while this is in use during a storm?
And my intention is the seasonal equipment is just that. When it's done with the season, I can put it away and close the container. As far as the trailer itself, it would just be office personnel, myself and my office manager, just to run the storm out of the trailer. As you know, with FEMA, they want numbers and they want answers within 24 hours. And we provide that to them immediately after the storm. And I can't do that without having an office out.
Okay. John?
Thank you, Mayor. Would you still anticipate, though, the moving of the trucks and things, that you got to get them up off into high ground? I mean, this isn't going to affect those things, or will it?
I'll still be storing it at the Legion and
Okay,
Church.
so that those hours and things to just move stuff because of where the DPW is, we got to get in a low area. So it's really just a place we'll move the containers, those permanent containers that'll just be used for storage, so that those containers won't really interact with, they're not storm related then, in terms of, I mean, you're going to get them off of where they are now to higher ground, let's say, and your off-season equipment is safe.
Yeah, because what I have to do now is those 5 containers that are full with all this equipment, I
Yes.
have to empty all those.
Thank you, okay.
And emptying all those trailers, I mean, not to mention everything else that's down there. I mean, it's literally hundreds of hours just to do it once.
Understood, okay. And one other is just
Right.
so this trailer that's set up for emergency, along with that, we'll need to get it wired and hooked up, and then it will just basically sit locked up, and, hopefully a place that will not be vandalized and, be protected by our police, because it's just sitting there loaded with backup stuff. So, but you'll move to that when a storm comes? Okay,
That's my intention.
great, thank you.
Thank you, John. Does any other council person have a question? Alphonse?
I mean, that area previously was the DPW garage, right?
It was.
Yeah, so, and, just in terms of maybe some landscaping, some arborvitae or something like that to, just clean it up a little bit so it's not as obvious the trailer's another black and you probably won't, you won't see them too much, but.
Yeah, if it was approved, I would certainly wish to work with the homeowners in the area to do some burn work, to put in some plants and arborvitaes and so forth. I don't want to be a bad neighbor. I just want to save the town taxpayers money. And to, I mean, these floods are killing us, and they just keep coming one after the other.
Okay. Johnny and then Sandy? Who was doing first? Sandy, go ahead.
John, I don't think it's a bad idea that you have a satellite office in the event of another natural disaster. You already store some of your equipment at the American Legion. We already own it. It's already got a roof. It's already got electricity. It's already got a bathroom. It's in bad shape. No reason why we can't put it to use as a satellite office for you or for the OEM, or for any other purpose. I know it's in bad shape, but I think that the idea of having a construction trailer on Grove Street, some of the residents might think it's an eyesore, that they don't want it. They might say it might affect their property values. I think you should have one. I think that we have a better location.
Okay, Johnny?
Yeah, I would say those are all valid points. I would still ask if that's the case to relocate the trailers. And the building that we're talking about, the Legion, we would have to do something with generation to keep the power going. And as of right now, that building isn't habitable.
Okay.
I'm not
Johnny?
against what you're saying, I'm just saying, just
Just too quick.
gonna be a lot of work.
The 55 to 8,500 is the trailer. Do you know what the total cost you think would be for the, the generator there, equipment, all that stuff? Do you have an idea of what the total cost
Well, I have
would
a
be?
generator ready, just if that's necessary, so that's the,
Or whatever. Do you have the total cost of what it would be to set up shop over there as a secondary location?
it would definitely be no more than $10,000, sir.
And then, the trailers that, or these boxes that they're on, is there any way to transport them full? Like, is there anything that, any way that we can just pick those up and bring them to a location during, so instead of emptying the whole thing? Like, is there something that maybe we're missing, that maybe we could have done that instead, or is that not possible?
Well, we pull it up on a big flatbed, and weight is concerned with pulling them up full, so they recommend you empty them anyway.
Alphonse?
Just, this again is an emergency situation. This is not something where, heavy vehicles and you and your staff are gonna be coming in on a daily, weekly, even a monthly basis. This may be once or twice a year, hopefully no more than that, but probably maybe once or twice a year. So your presence isn't gonna be there constantly.
I hope not.
Okay. Ed?
So John, the problem's twofold. One is storing equipment and material, the other is having a location to operate from. So in terms of the location for storage, that would make the most sense logistically to put the storage. We would be able to spend money and upgrade the computer system. If we get the new generator for this building, you could fully function out of here as well, couldn't you?
Well, I still have to relocate basically all my office stuff up here, whether it's copier, whether it's fax machines. I mean, I have to basically build an office from nothing,
But we can outfit an office, probably less than it would cost us to get a permanent trailer. We had to put a separate fax machine up here or whatever you would need. But that's still a potential.
I'm not against it either, It's just, it hasn't worked out in the past, let's say, working out of this building.
Any other council comment or question? Yes, go ahead, Alphonse.
Just along similar lines, if the police lines don't work because they're encrypted, it probably might be easier to put in another data port specifically for you rather than try and run off their lines anyway. And that might be worth exploring in terms of, the cost. I still think putting the trailers there is a good idea in that area. I mean, could use, I don't think the trailers are gonna have an impact really. And the if there's some landscaping, it might actually make it look, nicer. But if we can use that, that room to set you up with, for a minimal cost, and it would definitely be more secure. So.
Anyone else? John? Everybody's all set? Okay, so, does somebody want to?
Mayor, just to present the concept tonight, I don't know
Right.
if you want to open it up to the public.
I will.
And take questions.
Okay, I'd like a motion to open this portion of the meeting to the public on this issue only, okay?
Second.
All in favor? If there is anyone from the public who is here to ask questions about the possibility of putting a satellite office on the Grove Street property, now will be your opportunity. If you wish to speak, raise your hand. When I call on you, please give your name and address. Yes, sir?
My name is Michael Harley. I live on 30 Grove Street. I've been looking at those slabs for 22 years. First, I want to say DPW did a great job. Thoroughly appreciate it. However, my issue isn't how it looks. I've been looking at it. It's not taxes. My issue is a child falling off, hurting himself. I'm picturing some kid coming up to my door saying, "Mr. Harley, come quick." Somebody just fell and hit the head. I was a kid once and I've done some things looking back, thinking, what was I doing? So that's my issue.
Okay, thank you, and that's very valid. Yes. I know how kids like to get on high things.
And I picture it
And
happening,
leap
and I
from
don't
one
want to be
place
that
to the
person
next.
answering the door.
No. Okay, thank you.
It's on record, I said.
Yes, please, young man.
Jim Manassas at 18 Park, right at the end of Grove Street. I've been looking at that for the same time as he has, been there 30 years. I have a question, has anybody thought of developing that site for anything else?
In actuality, there have been certain thoughts brought up over the years. I guess a few years ago, we thought that we'd put in an indoor firing range for the police, indoor, soundproof, and on top have parking for the people who need to shop on Kinnecamack Road. You know, we have that area there where we have, it's almost like a strip mall, it's not a mall,
I
but,
understand.
yeah. But there's no parking, so those businesses have a very hard time making any kind of a living. But that plan had been put forth by the police department, and it was thought that, well, it was a possibility if, and only if, we could have Oradell and New Milford join in with the expense of doing that. Would be something that would be a safe, soundproof area. And the reason we thought of that was because going up to Mawa for qualifying is very, very costly. If you have to pay for your police officers to go up there and then to come back, you're paying the time of travel as well as the time that they're qualifying. Granted, we do have a pistol range down at KBG behind the fields. And it was thought, because we needed more fields for our children to play different sports, they thought that if they had moved the firing range, but of course it has not happened because there's no money, and Oradell and New Milford did not have money to go in with it either, so that's on hold. But there was, you know, an idea there to do something. Since then, nobody has come up with any idea except maybe for parking. To build a facility, it's very, very expensive. So, but we're open to listen to ideas, so.
Nobody has talked to a developer to see if it fits
It's been a concept for
Condos there or something?
Yeah, for a residential development there,
Right.
for a cul-de-sac, yeah. So,
Nobody's talked.
but nobody has, you know, nobody has come forward to,
Why does
follow
somebody have to
through
go
on
forward?
it.
I mean, why doesn't somebody come out and say, you know, call up a few developers and say, hey, we've got this land that's cheap.
yeah. Well, I don't know if we,
Because
I don't know if we give it away cheap.
well, I'm just saying.
You know, but we do need development, but it, yeah, it has been available. But you know, your point is very well taken. We ought to push forward on that. I mean, if we had been able to do the other item, it would have saved everybody a lot of money in the long run, but it wasn't a possibility. So, but yes, you're right, we should see if that can be explored.
We've got nothing out of that piece of property.
I know. Yeah, and it's a very, 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 very big drop also from Kinnecamack Road down.
Yes,
Yes,
but
yeah,
it's great for parking,
yeah,
parking underneath our building.
yeah. It's a great place for kids to play manhunt probably, but I don't know. I mean, kids like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, okay, well, thank you very much. And somebody else who would like to talk? Yes, please, name and address.
Glenn Lenz, 33 Grove Street. I'd like to say that no amount of paint or arborvitae's are going to cover up 5 shipping containers. They're going to be eyesore no matter what. They're going to bring down property values. That street looks pretty rough at the end already. I've been here about 7 years hoping something would be done about it. If you're going to put equipment inside these containers, do they have oil, gasoline in them? Is there any secondary containment for these containers? Will the Department of Environmental Protection be aware of this? These should be things that should be considered if you're going to put equipment on that. So it's all going to run down that street, straight into his house, and anybody else living down there, a lot of little kids. And it goes right into the gutter, right into the river.
Thank you. John, can you answer that? Would you would, I'm assuming you would not be putting equipment there loaded with gasoline and oil and stuff like that? You would have oil and gasoline? that would be a hazard. Thank you for your
Require
question.
secondary container.
Yeah, okay. Yes, please,
Also,
lady, name and address.
Lisa Glanz at 33 Grove Street. And just to the point of the amount of children that you mentioned as well, that it's a great place for mentoring. Well, indeed, it does attract a large number of children, and worrying about these big trucks going by with little kids in the area, and also the attractiveness of playing with a permanent structure that would be the trailer. Also, just want to clarify what he means by seasonal activity. Is this just for floods, or is it also during, fall season and foliage pickup and other?
Okay. John, would you like to clarify the seasonal machinery?
Councilman Jones said this is two separate things. One, it would be a trailer to set up as an office.
Right.
And the containers would be used to store seasonal equipment that is not in use. It's 4 seasons, so if we're using one season, the other 3 seasons would be in those containers.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard? Yes, please, young lady.
Elizabeth Harley, 30 Grove Street. I just want to compare the number of hazards, the number of times I'll have to use it for emergencies to the number of times I look out my window. I feel like it'll be ugly and not great to be there.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard? Yes, sir.
One last thing, Jim and Alex again,
Good.
KDK Park. What's to prevent, what about an idea of us citizens taking this project to developers and seeing what we could do with it? Since nobody in town seems to be doing it,
Well, everybody certainly has the ability, if you have a developer, you can have them,
I
come in.
don't have one, I have no.
No, anybody who knows of one who wants to use that, but they certainly can certainly approach us and approach the, the zoning board, the planning board. They can certainly do that if anybody has an idea about it,
Right.
okay? Because you never know what developer, one developer might see it as a gold mine, another developer will pass it by, yeah.
Can I get somebody to give me a layout of the property?
Of the property, okay,
Survey.
there is a map, right?
We have an old survey map
You have an
that
old-
would be available for the
Yeah.
public.
If you'd like to
Can I
come
get a
in.
copy?
Sure,
Can I get a copy?
Yeah.
Okay.
right. You'll have to come in during the day though.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
There are legal rules, there's the public lands and building law that we have to abide by. So
Right.
there are land use regulations, laws
Right.
that we would have to abide by in order to develop this property.
Right, but I mean, he can certainly take a
But
copy of the
welcome-
survey
welcome to
and
the
see if there is,
survey.
sure. And then if anything comes,
Yeah,
we
get a
can
copy of
certainly
the
follow
rules.
through with the
See our
rest.
clerk's office.
Right, in the morning, okay? All right. Yes, please, sir, once more, your name and address.
Glenn Lounge, 33 Grove Street. It might take a long time before this area actually gets developed.
Right.
What's the possibility of dumping a bunch of soil, planting some trees and flowers, and just making it look nicer, and it being a safer place for children to walk and play?
Mhm.
The cops aren't gonna keep them away, they're gonna play there anyway.
Right, right. Well, it's a good suggestion. I don't know if, the Shade Tree Commission, and I know there are a lot of trees there already. I don't think they have any money in their budget at all to do anything. But, maybe there would be a possibility of a soil or compost, I'm not sure.
Would the neighbors be allowed to bring or donate trees, or?
I don't see why not. I don't see why not, because that is borough property. Alan, does that be,
Well,
would
I know
that
we
fall under the
did
Shade
look
Tree Commission?
into, maybe about 15 years ago, looking into removing the concrete slabs. And we contacted contractors, and they wanted about $50,000 to remove the concrete slabs. And the cost just wasn't within our budget at that time. So I don't know whether you would have to demolish what's there before you did any sort of a planting. Whether you're talking about doing barrels, or you're talking about breaking up the concrete and then putting some sort of planting soil on top of it.
Would have to be something we'd have to explore. No? I know,
I don't know what the superintendent has in mind,
Yeah.
in terms of a buffer for
But I
what
don't-
he's proposed. He would have to address that issue also at a later point in time as to how we would do that planting, to get get that buffer in place.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the walls in that berm in the back has collapsed, and they took all the dirt and stones, put it back up and reinforced it with some bigger stones that are sort of forming a berm. Those other two walls could be susceptible to having the same thing happen.
Okay.
One of the walls does support some of the soil that supports the parking area right next to the stores up there.
Okay.
So that might be something
Something we need to address
we
and
want
look
to
at.
address, correct.
We're aware of
Okay,
I just have
yes,
one other,
please.
just one other comment. It is a dead-end street, and it is a bit of an eyesore, and it's a very easy street to make a decision like this. But if each one of you were to think about your own home and your own street, and something like this being proposed on your own street, maybe on Summit Avenue or Webb Avenue up the hill, and think about the implications of that in a nicer area, say, I think it would be quite a shocker. So just because this is sort of already a dead-end street and look a bit dumpy, it doesn't mean that it's carte blanche to add more. I think we could try to, turn the street around, make it nicer instead of plopping a trailer and trucks down. As much as, the DPW obviously needs, a service, but I think we can have a better solution.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, and sir, once more your name.
Michael Farley, 30 Grove Street. Am I not mistaken by saying, isn't that zoned for residential use only?
I don't know. I have to say, I really don't know if it is now, you know?
Our attorney will have to answer that question.
Okay.
I believe it's split. I believe the front part is a C1. The part of Kinnecamack is commercial C1 zone. The portion behind, I believe, is a residential zone.
So
Okay,
you shouldn't be able to do that. You shouldn't be able to put anything like that there except for residential. Am I mistaken by saying that?
You'd have to check the zoning ordinance, but the zoning ordinance generally would allow non-active uses for public use, so you'd have to check the zoning.
we'll have to check it.
Please.
Thank you. And anybody else who wishes to be heard on this topic? Yes, please.
Catherine
Young lady
Murphy,
of-
741 Williams Avenue.
Uh-huh.
If we already own the American Legion, why wouldn't we try and go ahead and use that to store this equipment? It's centrally located, it's across from a park, you're not gonna disturb residents. I mean, if you're gonna spend 10,000 to try to get this up and going, why not put the money toward that?
Well, that's a very good question, but right now, the American Legion is full of mold. It floods very, very readily, and you may be endangering people and whatever you're going to put in there. The floors are not in good condition, and we did have an estimate on what it would be to repair the American Legion, upwards of $1.5 million.
Well, if you hadn't let
Right
it get
now-
to this point, you wouldn't have had to spend this much money. If you hadn't let it collapse onto
Oh, well,
itself,
we
there's
didn't-
4 inches of water in the basement.
Before, when we bought it, it was like that, my dear lady. It's
There was
absolutely-
4 inches of water on the floor?
Yes, actually, it was quite a few feet, and as a matter of fact, they even had file cabinets that were used to hold up the walls.
I mean, you're the steward to make sure that things are taken care of, and,
You are
to let it
absolutely
get to
right.
this condition is, deplorable.
Well, I
That we
will tell
can't
you,
use this as a property that we own.
it's a shame, because this property was bought on the advice of council at the time, in 2009, and with the consent of the then attorney, who said that no more investigation needed to be done on it, and it was bought at the time without having proper vetting of the condition, and it should have been vetted.
So where did you come up with $1.9 million to
Not nine,
repair?
excuse me, you're misquoting
1.9.
1.5.
Fine.
Yes, there was an architect brought up by one of the former councilmen.
What was their name?
But the architect?
Yes.
No idea what the architect's name was, but he came up,
Mr. Takara.
No, it's
no, it was not
Colecci.
Takara.
It was Colecci.
Pete Polici.
Felici. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
He testified at an open session.
In an open session, he testified $1.5 million to repair. Okay, but thank you for your questions, and yes, your questions were very valid.
Thank you.
But I'm just letting you know that I would not want to endanger people going in there with the mold condition, and yes, something needs to be done, and right now, there is no money to do anything. There's off limits to everyone. Okay? Anyone else on this issue of Grove Street? Okay, a motion to close this portion of the meeting to the public on Grove Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, council, do you have any more questions of John? John, thank you very much for coming up tonight. This was information. Okay. And now, for discussion, budget preparation, before I open this up to the public on any issue.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may,
Uh-huh.
this time, it's difficult for me to come to the mayor and council to discuss how you would like to see the budget preparation process for the 2012 budget.